Tonight we unravel American Nightmare, the Real Gone Girl case. It began like a scene from a thriller, but this was no fiction. In the quiet town of Vallejo, California, a young couple's nightmare unfolded behind closed doors. And here's your clue to watch for. What critical mistake did law enforcement allegedly make in the early hours of this investigation? Welcome to Mysteries and Crime, where the shadows tell stories the daylight wishes to forget. On March 23rd, 2015, Denise Huskins vanished from her boyfriend Aaron Quinn's home. What began as a chilling report of kidnapping soon spiraled into accusations, disbelief, and a media frenzy. But behind the headlines was a story far more twisted than anyone could imagine. The sun rose over Vallejo on March 23rd, but for Aaron Quinn, daylight offered no comfort. According to reports, in the early hours, Aaron was jolted awake by a blinding light and the sound of masked intruders. Bound and drugged, he could only watch as Denise Huskins was taken from their bedroom, disappearing into the night. Hours later, Aaron dialed 911, his voice shaky, recounting an unbelievable tale of home invasion and abduction. But instead of launching a full-scale search, authorities grew suspicious. By the afternoon, Vallejo police publicly cast doubt on Aaron's story, suggesting that the couple had fabricated the kidnapping. Comparisons to the movie Gone Girl spread like wildfire, painting Denise as a woman who staged her own disappearance. Meanwhile, Denise was being held captive, her fate unknown. 2 days later, Denise resurfaced, found near her family's home in Huntington Beach. But instead of relief, both Denise and Aaron faced harsh scrutiny, accused of orchestrating an elaborate hoax. The real nightmare was only beginning. Denise Huskins and Aaron Quinn were, by all accounts, an ordinary couple, living quiet lives in Vallejo, California. Denise, a physical therapist in her late 20s, was known for her dedication to her patients and her love of coastal California. Friends described her as warm, driven, and full of life. She had recently rekindled her relationship with Aaron after overcoming personal challenges, a fresh start that seemed full of promise. Aaron Quinn, also a physical therapist, was respected in his community. Colleagues spoke of his calm demeanor, a man who kept to himself but cared deeply for those around him. Yet behind closed doors, Aaron was grappling with emotional turmoil, recovering from a previous relationship and working through trust issues with Denise. On the night of March 23rd, 2015, their lives changed forever. For Denise, what began as a quiet night at Aaron's home turned into a harrowing ordeal. Blindfolded, bound, and transported to an unknown location, she was held captive for over 48 hours. According to Denise, she endured threats, psychological torment, and sexual assault, though authorities were slow to believe her. Aaron, left behind and disoriented from being drugged, became an immediate suspect in the eyes of law enforcement. His detailed but unusual account of the abduction was met with skepticism, and soon, both he and Denise were thrust into a media storm neither could have anticipated. They weren't just victims of a crime, they became victims of disbelief. In the initial days following Denise's disappearance, law enforcement didn't focus on masked intruders. Instead, they focused on Aaron Quinn. According to police statements, Aaron's story was too unbelievable. Filled with details they deemed inconsistent, detectives pressed him for a confession, convinced that Denise's disappearance was staged or worse, that Aaron was responsible. But as days passed, a name emerged that would shift the course of the investigation: Matthew Muller. Matthew Muller was no ordinary suspect. A former Marine and disbarred Harvard-educated attorney. Muller had a history of instability. Reports later revealed a trail of bizarre behavior and prior break-ins. He was intelligent, methodical, and deeply disturbed. The breakthrough came months later, in July 2015, when Muller was arrested for a separate home invasion in Dublin, California. Inside his car and storage unit, authorities uncovered chilling evidence, items linked directly to Denise Huskins' kidnapping, including Denise's stolen laptop. According to federal investigators, Muller had orchestrated a calculated abduction, using surveillance, disguises, and sophisticated methods to terrorize his victims. Yet, despite the mounting evidence, questions lingered. Why did local police dismiss Aaron's account so quickly? And how many others had Muller allegedly targeted before being caught? The real suspect had been hiding in plain sight, while the victims were left to defend their innocence. It was shortly after 3 a.m. on March 23, 2015, when Aaron Quinn awoke to a nightmare. A harsh, mechanical voice filled the room, paired with a blinding light. Two masked figures, dressed head to toe in black wetsuits, loomed over the bed. According to reports, the intruders were calm, precise, as if following a script. Aaron was ordered to lie face down. Zip ties bound his wrists and ankles. Blackout goggles with headphones were forced over his eyes and ears, muffling sound and sight. He was injected with what he believed to be a sedative, leaving him disoriented and weak. Denise Huskins was taken from the room, blindfolded, gagged, and placed into the trunk of a car. The intruders left behind a chilling message, warning Aaron not to contact police, or Denise would be killed. They demanded a ransom, though no clear payment instructions followed. For the next 48 hours, Denise was held captive in a dark room. According to her testimony, she was subjected to repeated sexual assaults, forced to remain blindfolded and restrained. Her captor played recordings to mask his movements, manipulating time and reality. Back in Vallejo, Aaron struggled to convince authorities of the truth. Detectives questioned him for hours, allegedly suggesting he had killed Denise in a domestic dispute. The more Aaron insisted on the bizarre details, the goggles, the recordings, the sedatives, the more they doubted him. Then, on March 25th, Denise was released. She was dropped off near her family's home in Huntington Beach, over 400 miles from where she was taken. Disoriented and traumatized, Denise contacted her father, and soon after, local police. But instead of being treated as a victim, Denise was met with suspicion. Vallejo police held a press conference, publicly declaring the kidnapping a hoax. They claimed Denise and Aaron had wasted resources and misled investigators. Meanwhile, the real perpetrator was already planning his next move. It wasn't until July, when Matthew Muller was caught during another home invasion, that the pieces began to fall into place. Evidence recovered from Muller's possession, such as Denise's laptop, zip ties, and goggles, confirmed what Denise and Aaron had said all along. The crime was real. The terror was real. But the damage done by disbelief would linger long after the case was solved. The meticulous planning, the psychological manipulation, and the brutal assaults painted a picture of a predator who thrived in the shadows, while his victims were left fighting, not only for survival, but for credibility. This was not fiction. This was their American nightmare. In the days following Denise Huskins' release, Vallejo police stood by their claim. It was all an elaborate hoax. But hundreds of miles away, another investigation was unfolding. On July 5th, 2015, a Dublin, California couple reported a terrifying home invasion. The intruder wore a wetsuit, used zip ties, and attempted to kidnap the woman of the house. This time, the husband fought back, and the suspect fled, leaving behind a cell phone and a rental car. Inside that car, detectives found a trove of evidence: duct tape, blacked-out goggles, and a laptop linked to Denise Huskins. Federal authorities stepped in, recognizing the striking similarities. The name Matthew Muller surfaced, and soon a pattern of calculated abductions emerged. It became clear Denise and Aaron had told the truth all along. The forensic trail was both revealing and frustrating. While Muller left physical evidence, zip ties, disguises, Denise's belongings, the initial mishandling of Denise's case meant critical time had been lost. No crime scene had been preserved at Aaron's home, and skepticism from Vallejo police delayed forensic analysis. When the FBI took over, they uncovered digital footprints, including emails sent from anonymous accounts demanding ransom. Data recovery from Muller's devices revealed surveillance notes, maps, and recordings used to terrorize his victims. Despite the lack of early cooperation from local authorities, federal investigators built a solid case. In September 2016, Matthew Muller pled guilty to kidnapping charges in federal court. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison, but for Denise and Aaron, justice was bittersweet. The truth had finally been acknowledged. Yet the scars left by disbelief and public ridicule would remain long after Muller's conviction. When Denise Huskins reappeared, the public was already primed to doubt her. Fueled by police statements, whispers of a gone girl scenario spread rapidly. Social media buzzed with theories. Late-night hosts made jokes, and neighbors in Vallejo looked at Aaron Quinn with suspicion. Community fear was replaced by cynicism. Instead of searching for a dangerous predator, many believed they were witnessing a real-life hoax. It wasn't until Matthew Muller's arrest that the tone shifted. Shock rippled through the community, as people realized a predator had walked among them, while the true victims were mocked and disbelieved. The media played a pivotal role in shaping public perception. In the days following Denise's release, headlines mirrored police skepticism, branding the incident as the real Gone Girl case. Major outlets questioned the couple's credibility, while investigative resources dwindled. When federal authorities revealed the truth months later, retractions were scarce. The damage had been done. Years later, documentaries like Netflix's American Nightmare revisited the case, exposing the failures of law enforcement and media rush to judgment. Denise and Aaron's story became a cautionary tale, not just about crime, but about how easily victims can be silenced by disbelief. In the early days, law enforcement clung to one theory: the kidnapping was staged. Despite Aaron Quinn's detailed account and Denise Huskins' eventual reappearance, Vallejo police maintained that no crime had occurred. Public speculation spiraled, with theories ranging from insurance fraud to a publicity stunt. But behind the scenes, clues pointed elsewhere. After Matthew Muller's arrest, investigators uncovered evidence suggesting Muller may have been involved in other unsolved crimes. Reports hinted at possible accomplices, though no one else was charged. Questions lingered. How many victims were there? And could this have been prevented if authorities had believed Denise and Aaron from the start? In September 2016, Matthew Muller stood before a federal court. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Muller pled guilty to kidnapping. He was sentenced to 40 years in federal prison. No state charges were filed for the sexual assaults, largely due to jurisdictional challenges and the initial mishandling of the case. This left Denise without full legal recognition of the trauma she endured. Vallejo police never issued a formal apology until faced with a civil lawsuit. In 2018, Denise Huskins and Aaron Quinn received a settlement of $2.5 million for defamation and mishandling of the investigation. Though justice was partially served, the legal battle highlighted systemic failures that turned victims into suspects and allowed a predator to roam free longer than he should have. Despite Matthew Muller's conviction, many questions remain unanswered. Did Muller act entirely alone, or were there others involved, as some evidence suggested? How many victims never came forward, silenced by fear or disbelief? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, if law enforcement had acted differently in those critical first hours, could further crimes have been prevented? The shadows surrounding American Nightmare still linger, a reminder that sometimes the greatest danger lies not only in the crime itself, but in the refusal to believe it happened. Though this case unfolded in Vallejo, California, its impact reached far beyond. It sparked national conversations about victim blaming, law enforcement bias, and media responsibility. Denise Huskins and Aaron Quinn became advocates, sharing their story to ensure others would never endure the same disbelief. Law enforcement agencies faced scrutiny. Policies were questioned. But for many, trust had already been broken. American Nightmare stands as a chilling testament to how truth can be overshadowed by assumptions, and how critical it is to listen before judging. As we close the chapter on American Nightmare, the Real Gone Girl case, we leave you with this. What are your thoughts on this case? Could a different turn of events have changed everything? Drop your answers and the clue in the comments below. As always, stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay safe.